Good evening. I'm not used to speak to that much people, so I've noted down a little bit the issues to talk about tonight. First of all, the work that we present tonight is really a work in progress. So it has a lot of bugs. We still have to work a lot on it, but it can show you tonight something, the aim that we want to go to. I want to repeat maybe that this work is not a work of me only, me alone. We work with people from the University of Leuven, as Michel said, and also the people from La Hague. If you want to speak later on with, for example, Peter, who is hidden behind the pillar there, who worked, he's our developer, programmer, our artist developer in fact, works in Brussels in the hackerspace, Brussels. And then Dries, who is here tonight, who is studying at the CU, which is in fact a user experience research center in a way. We all came together for this project that Dries and I entered in a way. So it's called Dark Matter, and let me tell you something about what we wanted to bring in this research. The research that we wanted to do in fact is mainly we wanted to work on a cinematic experience. In fact, myself, I work in film, like traditional film, and we wanted to use some elements coming out of there. And then there was another element which comes out of an earlier piece that I worked on. Now, what we wanted to do is, in fact, how could we put a user into his own research? How could we put him emerge completely into the research he's doing, into a web research, for example, into the data that he's getting out? That's one thing, referring to the cinematic experience. How could we immerse somebody in this research? And then how could we also give the user the possibility to create an audiovisual experience himself? So not giving him an image, a sound, and then something happens, but he would himself create this audiovisual environment. So let me go back to another work that we did earlier, and which is in fact the basis for how we started this. An earlier work was called Salt Lake, and in that work we confronted a solitary user of the installation to his own silhouette. The silhouette called like a mirror image of himself in front of a screen. And we had very interesting reactions on this. People were like, wow, this is me on the screen. It's not my mirror image. There's a kind of strange timing on it, but it's me, and I'm in there in the screen. So I thought it was a very interesting fact. And what I proposed to the people from the university is like, let's use this mirror image, this silhouette, as an interface. So in a certain way we call it a little bit pretentious, the human body interface. So what we did, we created a tool in which people enter, one person at a time enters and is confronted with his own silhouette, and it moves like he does. So in a way the silhouette becomes his interface. It becomes like a little bit to reference to what cinema can do. In fact, if you go to see a good movie and you're in the movie theater, lights go out, you're in a good seat, you forget the people around you. When the movie is very good, you're like identified with the characters on scene. So this makes you forget what happens around you, and it absorbs you, it immerses you completely in the film. So this is, using this silhouette, we wanted to get the same effect. Like, we put you there, you're in front of the screen, and there's a character there, but it's yourself. So in a way, it maybe could help us, and that's the research what we do. Maybe you could help you of getting completely absorbed in what happens there, and it's you. So you have an identification. It's really like in the script or in the film. Let me go back. So, in fact, that would be the way of how your silhouette becomes the interface. So now what happens, the research that we're doing is, we have set up some tools. You can sit there, you can stand there in front of the screen. Now, we're just in the beginning of this research. We have still a lot of questions, and we will go on, but the questions we ask ourselves, we have this new kind of interface, this body, what can we get out of there? You have like two hands. You can just click like with the mouse, click something, start something. But you can do much more things, and we still have to do research on that. Like, okay, when you have your two hands doing this, if your body moves faster, for example, how can we make this interact with the program? Or if you just move with your head, or if you're very slow. So there's all these kinds of parameters that we really research on now, which is ongoing and ongoing. So we still have a lot of work, as I said. Let me go back. So then this is other element that I talked to you about. Is like in making movies or a documentary or a series on television, a director, he writes his script, so he makes a kind of logic and words, and then you get your money, and then you say, okay, let's shoot the film. So what do? You record images, you record sound, and you put then in the third phase everything together, you edit it. Now, we wanted to give the possibility, like we hope in less than 10 minutes when somebody enters the installation, we wanted to give the possibility to the user of creating his own stuff. So what do we do? Where do we get the images and sound? Well, it's the web, naturally. You have a lot of databases there. So what we found, like places like Free Sound, where you get sound, but also an American database, which is called WordNet, and then naturally Flickr or other photograph and YouTube databases. So what did we do? We went to WordNet, and we worked with somebody else also from an organization in Antwerp, Lieve Mensgaard, who works for Notebooks. Maybe some people of you know him. We gave the possibility to the user to select a word, and through relationships that these words give, iterations, in fact, coming out of the database WordNet, you could kind of make a trajectory. In a way, a kind of script. You could write yourself a script, and using these words, we could bring in sounds through tags. People put on the sound on the free sound database, or in Flickr, people put their tags. So you could put a whole kind of relationship. So when you go in the installation, you could like create your script, and from that script, pictures come out, and then in a later stadium, we hope also video, but that's a lot of work too.
Can we put someone in already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just to conclude, maybe somebody from the audience just could come in. Maybe it's better also not to threshold the line here and here, because it works only when it works well for one people. So if there's a voluntary, we could restart the thing, put the mouse out, and put the light a little bit out. Maybe
anyone?
A lady, because we're all computer nerds, and it would be nice that also some women present themselves wanting to experiment things. So, is anybody a volunteer? It's very simple, okay. So I'll explain a little bit what we wanted to go to. As I said, this is a prototype. It's really not very fine. The beginning, you just enter. Go on. So what would happen first, and in the final installation, is that you have a moment where you meet yourself. Maybe you should get out behind the line, yeah. And could you put on the sound also, Peter? Yes. So there's kind of 4 parts that we want to integrate in installations. First, you meet yourself, and then you have a kind of data initiation. You get like the words coming from WordNet, and it would help you like, you can make your own relations coming from the data by selecting your words. Yeah, you have, yeah, ups. Ups. And what you see, so, well, ladies are very fast in understanding it. Sometimes people really search a long time. But what happens is that next to the data selection, you have a data construction, which is now in this form that maybe, yeah. The pictures are not sensible yet. So you can kind of create your own trajectory through the words, and at the same time, you have pictures coming up, and in a later stadium, sounds, and there's a kind of cloud that is creating itself For the moment, it's only the black words that are sensible, so you should have to. If you get a little bit closer, you become a little bigger and try to touch trade book or bestseller. Yep. So for the moment, this is a little bit it. At the end, this should go much faster, and the cloud behind would be like much thicker. At a certain point, this really like very primitive selection would may be possible in the big cloud that you have, and at the end of the installation, it would like have to become an overflow of images and sound in which you walk your own creation in a way, and that would have to give you an intense feeling of wow, I made this, and when I move, wow, it grows in another way, and, or if I'm very slow, it moves very slowly, or it grows itself, until there's really like an overkill of images, and then it would end. Well, we don't have an end yet. So this is where we are for the moment. This is not a finished product. I think Michel invited, he saw this piece in Brussels and said, yeah, maybe you should come explain it. But it's not finished. Yeah, come and explain it. So this is what I did. But this is where we are.
That's why you're testing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, any questions at this stage?
I have one. When you were talking, there was some really funny anarchic things going on behind you that you didn't see. There were two people interacting with your interface on the wrong side of the screen. And that meant they had two shadows. They had their shadow and their heat camera shadow. And it was out of sync with about half a meter. And it was super interesting to see how they were working out, how to pick things out. Not with this shadow, but with the other one. So I would suggest, now that you have it set up this way, to run a couple of tests with people also working on the wrong side of the screen. Just because it looked really interesting. And I know it's not the point, but it happened, so I have to point it out.
We still have so much research to do, so we can take that too. So, but indeed, it's true. You have then two layers. In fact, you have the created shadow and a direct one. So there's a lot to research indeed. Yeah.
I wanted to ask if you find this kind of representation of data in tree structures, if you find it intuitive and flexible enough to work with, or do you have any feedback from the users of the system?
Well, it's true. We have been checking out data representation, and it's the most simple representation you have really is like this is a link with the other one. You have a line, and so I think it's very difficult to find the right intuitive representation of how to check out it. Well, we've seen the one with the cube is how can we fast go from one to another, and this one came up like 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and we haven't been working, everybody has been working on other stuff, so it's really like finding out, and for the moment it's really like, how do you say in Dutch, like krakkemikkig. It's really like, or in Flemish then, but I think at the end it should be like a natural thing. Now we're really like something technical, but if you do this, it should come to you, and it's maybe not easy for the moment, yeah. I agree, but...
Which other representations have you tried?
This one is with the 3D, with depth and people in front. Then we had a really big 2D representation, and then words and pictures that are really just very flat. So there's all kind of different possibilities. But the thing that you said tonight, Kristina, is like, we had it shown some weeks ago, and there was one kid, and he really liked it, so that helped me. But I think it's interesting to show it for kids, and we have maybe a project in Mechelen in Technopolis, and people want to invite us to, if they found the money, to have a creation or a setup for kids that would be able, working with words, and make it very easy for them to find out, and maybe creating poems and audiovisual. But then we have to work with a linguistic.
If I may give some advice to that, is don't make it too easy. Kids can handle complexity. What you want to do is use them as your co-researchers. Because children are excellent co-researchers, not test subjects. So get them to actually think this through with you and just have enough programmers to actually make it happen as you go. That's really a lot of fun to go that way.
A lot of programmers to go fast. As Peter is the only one, or sometimes he does a good job.
Okay, I think the crowd is getting kind of rowdy and they want to play around with these things. So thanks, Tom, for your explanation with the project.
Thank you very much.